This is my audience. Did you know that the first internal combustion engine was invented back in 1860? It was invented by a Frenchman named Etienne Lenoir, who later used it for a car he was prototyping. Today, while a little bit different, that engine design is still used in most modern cars. Being familiar with it and with how it works can help you diagnose problems with your vehicle and keep up with its maintenance. I've worked on cars since I was 16 and got my first car, so I have a lot of experience in diagnosing cars' problems and fixing them. To understand how an internal combustion engine works, you first need to know what is needed for a car to run and the components that make up an engine. While there's many complicated processes within a modern car, there are a few things that are required to make it run. It can be simplified into three main ideas. First, an engine needs fuel. Fuel for most cars is in the form of gasoline. Fuel pumps and injectors are used to transport gasoline from the tank to the engine. Next, you need air. Many people don't know about this, but an engine does require air. An engine does require air. Air is mixed with gasoline to add more oxygen into the gasoline, which allows it to combust more rapidly. And actually, it won't combust without oxygen or without a spark. So the last thing you need is a spark, and spark plugs are commonly used in the thermal combustion engines to create, or in internal combustion engines to create a spark to ignite the fuel. Now that we have fuel, air, and a spark, our engines can run. There are a few more complicated components needed. This diagram by Britannia Kids helps outline these other components. Okay, so a piston, which is right here, this thing, works alongside these two valves, an intake valve and an exhaust valve, in order to make an engine run. There are 4 different processes that are needed in order to make an engine run and a car move. The first process is, so the cycles include intake, compression, power, and exhaust. And during the intake process, the piston moves downward, which forces the intake valve to open and brings in the air-fuel mixture from the air and fuel being mixed together. So it brings it in, and after that, the valve closes and the piston begins moving upward, which compresses the air and fuel mixture. And once it's reached its max compression point, the spark plug ignites, which is in the power process. When the spark plug ignites, it creates a little tiny explosion within the cylinder, which fires down the piston, like creating a torque that kind of turns the engine. So it fires down the piston, and once it reaches the bottom, it turns around and comes back up to release this exhaust that is created from igniting the fuel mixture. So the exhaust is released through the exhaust valve. So that valve opens up and the exhaust escapes. And these 4 stages happen within an airtight cylinder. And basically, the more cylinders you have on a vehicle, the more power it can generate. So like a V8 engine has 8 cylinders, a V12 engine will have 12, and then like they make 4-cylinder cars, which are only 4 of them. And like things like leaf blowers have only like 1 cylinder on them. So although the inner workings of a vehicle are more complicated than what I've shown here, I've explained some simple processes of how an engine actually runs. I listed what is needed to run and how all the components work together. And I hope this information one day will help you diagnose your car and fix it if anything is ever wrong.